Okay, YouTube, we're back with part 2 of my conversation with an alien abductee. We're talking to Robert Gunnell. He has had multiple alien encounters throughout his life. What's going on, Robert? How are we doing today?
Pretty good. Just enjoying the night. Did some stargazing earlier, and trying to get the kids to all, wind down a little bit.
Right. Yeah. We always have to look up because you don't ever see anything unless you look up.
Exactly.
So.
Absolutely.
So we left your first encounter, which was a very fascinating story. So we're going to talk about your second encounter. So we're gonna give the stage to you, so to speak. So tell us a little bit about your second encounter. And what happened? Let's go with after your first encounter. After you had told your mother what had happened, and then everything kind of died down, and you're thinking like, oh, okay, well maybe this happened, maybe that happened. So tell us about what happened when your second encounter took place.
Okay. So it was when I was 12 years old, and this is I want to say the beginning of 1996, and we were in a little condo, on a street called Santa Barbara in Mesa, 712 North Santa Barbara, actually, was the address there. To your viewers that want to do any fact checking, and it was number 34 was the unit. So I'm there, and I had gone to bed that night, probably around 10 o'clock. And I found myself around midnight or so with something at the side of my bed. I woke up out of a dead sleep, and I had this creature sitting next to me. Its face is maybe a foot and a half away from mine, and its head, it was not like a gray. This is like something horribly demonic looking. There was a show I was discussing with you earlier called The Head on MTV's Oddities.
Correct, yes.
And it had a little purple monster. It looked like almost exactly like that guy, except it had a lot more spikes around its cheeks, its chin. For the viewers that want to look it up, I believe the alien's name was Roy. It was Jim and Roy. And this monster would live inside this guy's head, which was kind of crazy because this alien, or creature, this entity, it started to, it put me in a paralysis. So I'm laying there, I can't scream, and I'm like in absolute terror. All I want to do is run out of the room and scream at the top of my lungs. I can't move a single muscle. I'm ice cold to the touch. I could feel my face just really cold. All I could do was move my eyes. I could open my mouth, but I couldn't scream. I couldn't talk. All I could do was breathe, look around. That was it. And I'm looking right at this thing, and it's just like it's got this huge grin on its face. Its mouth was probably about 7-8 inches wide, from end to end sideways, and I could see its teeth were just like covered in like a thick saliva drool coming out of its bottom lip, off the chin, and its skin was like a purplish brown, almost like a mud, like almost like purple mud, is what it looked like. And this horrible stench in their room, it smelled like moldy water, and like urine. There's like urine and moldy water, just like, you can think of like the worst kind of like, I don't know, like liquid hot garbage. It was like that, but like more urine and mold and mildew smell to it. It was just permeating the whole room. And it was staring me dead in the eyes. And at that point, when I was trying to scream to get someone's attention, my mouth was mute, and that's when it hit me that this thing has total control over me. And then my head started to expand and contract. I could feel the action. I don't know if I can explain this the best way, is like it felt like somebody turned my head into a balloon and was blowing air into it, like, and then letting the air out, you know, and they would let my head get like 4 inches out, you know, from where the base of my skull was at. It would go out from, you know, into the sides, the top. My entire head was just expanding and contracting 4 times. And I remember, like, the most horrible pain in my life from that. The next thing would be, like, you know, kidney stones or, you know, kidney surgery that I've had. But this was definitely number 1. And I just remember my skull, I could feel it. My face was shifting. I could feel my eye sockets cracking, cheekbones, you know, everything, my teeth, my jaw, and everything was just like expanding and contracting. And this thing was just sitting there grinning the whole time, drooling, and I had absolutely no control over it. All I wanted to do was just like die, you know, like that was the point. I was like, if you're gonna kill me, just kill me. That's all I'm thinking.
Okay, Robert, I gotta stop you right then and there. So I'm afraid I have to ask you the same question that I asked you in the previous video. How do you know that you were not truly just having a nightmare? How do you know it was happening to you, and it was happening to you live and direct?
Well, the way that I knew that it was actually happening is, you know, 1, I've had night terrors in the past, and usually, like, a night terror, I can kick myself out of it, you know, like, I'll make myself wake up, or I'll be able to have more control over it, you know, or if I'm experiencing something like a shock value, it usually stirs me, and I'm able to get out of it pretty quick. I've always had that, you know, programmed in my brain that I could, you know, that fleeting that I could do. The second thing is the smell, not just the smell, but the moisture from where this thing was on my carpet and on the side of the bed. The bed was all like slimy, like wet. The carpet, same thing, slimy and wet. You could smell it in the room. There wasn't a blackout that occurred after this. You know, I was wide awake. So I literally was there the whole time. It did what it did to me, and then as soon as it was done, it just disappeared. Like it left the room, and as soon as it left the room, I was able to get up and start walking around. But I didn't really walk. I darted. I just went straight for my bedroom door, ran out down the hallway. First, I tried knocking on my mom's room, which is directly across the hall. There was no answer. I tried my sister's room. I think she was out for the night. She was like right on my side of the hall, the next door. And then I went out to the living room. You know, I couldn't get anybody to be there for me. There was nobody there for me. My guess is my mom. I think my mom was out for bingo or something that night. She would do that a lot with a boyfriend she had at the time, which ended up being my stepdad down the road. But yeah, so that was my confirmation, you know, aside from knowing that it wasn't just a standard night terror, is the physical evidence it left behind of, like, the moisture and the dampness and the stink that was in that room is just horrible. And it was, you know, it wasn't just on the side of the bed, it was trailed up, like, onto the top of the mattress, you know, my sheets, on my pillowcase. So this thing was leaning over me for a little bit. That would be my indicator, you know, that physical evidence there, that happened.
Oh, okay. So let me ask you a question. So this creature, this being, this alien, to say the term loosely, it didn't look like the traditional gray that we all think about when we see or think about aliens on TV, the movies, you know, on the internet. This was a totally different being than the traditional big gray head, big almond-shaped black eyes. This was a totally different looking creature.
Exactly. Yeah, its skull was wide and short, so it was like the complete opposite of what a gray would usually have. The tall and thin, like kind of elongated egg shape. This was short and stout, as the song would say.
Right.
Yeah, the teapot head. So its head was literally, I want to say, if I were to ballpark, it was probably about 16 inches wide and about 8 inches tall. And then the jaw, it had like a small, kind of like a bubbled out chin. And then the jaw went from that bubble to like a flat jaw straight across to connect to the other side of the face on each side. And then it had very large, like 2-inch horns coming off, one on each side at the top of the head. And then it had a multitude of smaller horns, maybe ½ inch to 1 inch apiece, scattered across the top of its head in between the two main ones. And then from the main ones down to where like the ears would be and down to the jowl, the side of the jaw. It had a few on its forehead that kind of like pointed in an upward diagonal angle between its brow line and the top of the forehead. I mean, it had a lot of spines on it. And then, of course, the color of its skin, if you were to take like purple and brown and mix those two colors together, that's like the closest I could get to it. It reminded me a lot of more of like a lizard, you know, like a bipodal, I guess that's what you would call it, something that would walk on two legs, that type of being. So, like the Greys, it walked on two legs, had two arms. I don't know how tall it actually was. You know, it was maybe like 3 feet on the side of my bedside. But it looked like it was kneeling or crouching next to the bed. And so it was really hard to really gauge. I could guess maybe if it was kneeling, it was probably another 2.5 feet, maybe 3 feet taller than what I saw. So probably about 6 feet tall if it were standing. But yeah, way different. You know, its demeanor, it seemed much more evil. It was there to harm me and to put terror into my heart, my mind. You know, the Greys, you know, of course, we'll get to that later, but my first encounter with them also wasn't, you know, too kind, to say the least. But this definitely took the cake out of all of them. This scared me to death.
Okay, so I wanna backtrack a little bit. Okay, so you just said that this being, when you seen it, you know it was no good. You know it meant nothing but to bring you harm, to bring you terror, to bring you fear. Okay, so I'm gonna ask you, what did it do to you, other than the feeling it gave you? Like what? Like did it do anything to you? Like what happened?
Well, it was like it wasn't just the feeling. Like it was like, you know, because I could almost, it wasn't like thoughts, but it was almost like I would say like a non-existent voice, like in my head, but not a voice. You know, it was like that feeling that was being projected into my mind of the terror itself. So not just the way that, you know, it was looking at me, but also like the grin that it had on its face while it was doing this. It was just like a maniacal, like almost like a Joker, you know, like crazy grin to its face. Like it had its teeth were opened up, you know, and it was kind of like breathing like a like that, you know. Yeah. But it wasn't like a giggle, like a human giggle or a laugh. It was just like this kind of breathy kind of chuckle, like you know. I could hear it, you know, breathing and kind of grunting, almost like it was getting a kick out of doing what it did. That would be the other indicator, you know, that it was there to do some harm, or that it was there to really just mess with me in a horrible way.
Do you remember it doing any kind of experiments on you? Do you remember it doing like any kind of a medical procedure where you can remember?
No, not this one. No. I had some later, but not this one.
Okay. Okay, so you remember a very, just a very, an evil, if you will, just an evil presence of this creature,
Oh, yeah.
like different from the Greys. With the Greys, you felt. What did you feel with the Greys with your first abduction?
Well, with the first one, I was scared. I was scared, but I was confused. I didn't understand what they were doing to me. I didn't know if they were like putting a tracking device into me, with that thing they put in my back. It seemed like I was being tagged and kind of like inducted into the, whatever this was. But the second visitation I had, this was definitely just evil. And I've heard of some very evil beings that are out there. I've always been told that the Greys were protectors, that they're looking out for us, but we're also kind of like a science experiment. And then these evil ones, these other species that are out there, they have only one thing in mind, is to perpetuate harm to us, to inflict, mental torture and torment, almost like a demon would do, which I've had an argument about that with some very religious figures, but I swore up and down. I was like, look, this is not a demon. This was not an entity that was taking over somebody's body, an apparition. This was a being. It drooled all over my bedroom and my bed. It smelled, it was nothing like anything I've ever seen in my life.
So, other than the first abduction or encounter with the Greys, where they were, dealing with you, this creature, you don't remember any kind of procedures, or you don't remember any kind of a craft. You don't remember any kind of a like other creatures around. It was just this creature solo by himself.
Yeah, this one was by itself. I didn't notice any other ones. Leading up to that time, though, there were moments where I would be in that bedroom, and it felt like, felt like somebody was staring at me through my blinds, and they would just kind of strike me like, I felt like I was being watched, is what it felt like. And that was like, a couple weeks leading up to it, I would get that feeling, it would come over me. And then I would go check the blinds, or in the middle of the night I would hear like this kind of, thumping or whatever on my window. And I would be sleeping, and just out of dead sleep I'd hear this, middle of the night, and I'd be like wondering what it was, and it would catch me off guard. And then, I'd look over and think, that's probably just the wind, and then I'd hear it again, and so I'd go to check, and then there'd be nobody there. But then, if I would go back, away from the window, I could still feel it. Like, I could feel like somebody was just watching me. Or I would hear, I would start to think that I heard things in my closet, the typical, there's monsters in my closet story. And, my mom would never believe it. She was like, you're probably just going crazy, you're thinking stuff, your imagination, kind of like before, it's just your imagination.
Right.
Or maybe it was, your sister in the next room going through her closet, and I'm like, if she's going through her closet and it's moving my clothes or moving my bedroom closet door, then we have a problem. So.
Oh, okay. So I want to ask you really quick. So after this encounter happened and it left, did you fall asleep, or were you already up and awake and you're looking for an exit, a way out?
What? I was wide awake.
Okay, so again, so you went to your mom. She wasn't there. She was with her friends, playing games or what have you. Did you go to sleep, or did you wait? Did you stay awake for the rest of the morning?
Yeah, I was awake. It was about midnight when I went out of my room. I stayed up until the next day when I had to be up for school. So I probably stayed up for about 6, almost 7 hours straight, through, instead of like sleeping. Because I would usually go to bed at 9 or 10, sometimes 11, and then get back up at like 5 or 6 in the morning, depending on what day it was. And, that way I could get up, get ready, and go to school. But yeah, I would just go. I literally went and stayed up the entire night. I was in that much of a shock, that much of a panic. I was afraid to go back to sleep. I was afraid to go back to that bedroom. I remember I sat out in my living room the entire night. We had fish tanks out, a big saltwater fish tank that we would keep lit up at night. And I just sat out there in the living room with the TV on low and watched the fish and just sat there with as much light as I could. We had the iguana out there. We had a big 6-foot iguana that stayed on top of the couch. And his name was Iggy. We would keep that out, at night, and then during the day he would be out in his little sunroom area on the deck on the front side of the condo. But I remember having him out there as kind of like company, and I felt a little more, safe, I guess. As a 12-year-old, it just felt comforting to me, having the pets there. I felt like I wasn't completely alone.
Okay.
I stayed up until my mom came home. And
okay, so
I told her.
okay, so again, we're having a your mother's coming home. So again, you're telling your mother what happened.
Right.
But this time you don't have any witnesses, do you?
This time, no. I was by myself this time. The first time I had my brothers and sisters there. This time, I'm by myself. And she comes home from bingo, and basically I tell her, what had happened, just like I told you now. And I think she may have been drinking because she didn't really seem too much, like she was just really nonchalant and passive about it. Just kind of like, oh, really? Wow, that's crazy. And I was just like, yeah, Mom, it's really, it's really fucking crazy.
Right.
Like, do you want to maybe, talk about it, or, can you stay out here? And all she wanted to do is, get in and grab something to eat and, take a shower, go to bed. I was like, no, something just happened, while you guys were gone. And, she just, I don't know what it was. Like, I don't know if she just didn't care, or if she just was drunk, or maybe just tired and didn't want to hear it. I come from a big family, so, I've got 7 sisters and 3 brothers. So I'm sure that my time was split quite a bit, as far as her attention was concerned.
Right,
it just didn't seem to, like, kick in, like, if somebody were to go on the streets, or a family member go and say, hey, I just met an angel, or I just ran into Jesus, or, like, people would typically be a little more interested to talk about it, like, really, what does it look like? What did they say? Like, this is like, hey, there was this demonic creature that made my head almost blow up 4 times, and there's still, drool on my carpet and on the side of my bed. You want to go look at it? Like, there was no validation. That's what it was. So she wouldn't even give me the time of day to, like, validate any of it. And that really, it pissed me off, like, it pushed me into a corner. I became really antisocial going forward from that point, because I got to a point where I had my last straw, and it broke, and I was like, you know what, I'm not even going to bother talking about it anymore. And, of course, it continued to happen, which we'll go into later, but
yeah,
it continued to happen, and and the more it happened, the more I wanted to talk about it, but the more that I tried to talk about it, the more people are like, oh, you're crazy, you're on drugs, you got a psychological issue, you need to be medicated. It was always something. It was always some excuse to push it away, rather than to be like, yeah, I guess, there's a really good chance that we're not the only people on a planet,
correct,
that have the ability, to go and visit other civilizations, or, like to think like that narrow-minded, and look up in the stars and go like, yeah, we're the only ones here. Like, give me a break.
No,
yeah,
no,
I
no.
was really pissed.
Yeah, I agree. And we're going to stop the conversation from there. This is going to be part 2 of our conversation. Mr. Gunnell has a lot more of a story. We haven't even 30% like covered of this story. So we're going to conclude this video from here. I'm Black Bigot. I'm talking to Mr. Gunnell. There's going to be, God, at least 3 more videos. It's amazing. He has quite a fantastic story to tell. We have barely, not even half, covered the half of his story. So I'm Black Bigot. I'm talking to Mr. Gunnell. Stay tuned for part 3. We're going to talk about more. He has. I can only tell you this. For me to call it a story is nothing. So, anyways, I'm Black Bigot. I'm with Mr. Gunnell. Please stay tuned to part 3, and it's coming right at you very soon. Take it easy. Peace out.